Emergency Black Day. For Putin, the Russian army is losing captured territories. Meat assaults are being used. Our forces are grinding them down too. The armed forces of Ukraine are pushing forward, despite the enemy's heavy fire. Partisans in Crimea are making history right now. All this in our episode Hell Point. Hell is unfolding live in the Donetsk region. The Russians are advancing towards the Lyman direction. The armed forces of Ukraine are reliably holding back the enemy. Everything is burning. Air trenches, equipment, dreams of a lightning offensive. Russian crossings are collapsing like dominoes. The chances of reclaiming captured territories are increasing. Will the enemy troops really retreat after this? More details about this in our report.
Cab. In these populated areas.
It flew right over us, right?
Yes.
Headlight. Usually enemy Su aircraft on the Lyman section of the front drop 3 gliding bombs in one run. And at the launch lines, the Moscow bombers approach, regardless of the weather and time of day, multiple times a day.
Here with the bombs, it's constant. They regularly hit Kramatorsk, Sloviansk, Lyman, and all places where personnel are concentrated, so it's no secret. They work with the bombs very, let's say, intensively.
They bomb both the rear Ukrainian territories and directly the line of combat engagement, coordinating with enemy artillery remotely, creating a continuous cloud of fire over Ukrainian defensive positions on the border of Luhansk region with Donetsk.
We'll really hit them hard there.
Since March, it seems like it's been increasing. Well, it feels like it's only growing.
Movement. Without difficulties, no?
Yeah.
Enemy drones, which don't care whether it's broad daylight over the Zerebets River or a dark night, circle and attack our defenders' hideouts on the western bank almost continuously. Arrived at the position, and the first thing the calculation commander said was birds. We thought they were actual birds because birds sing in the morning. You were talking about other birds, right?
Well, yes, about different birds. Drone birds, we call them sometimes.
They're the Russian drones, says Borzy, a Mortar calculation spotter of the 66th Ukrainian Mechanized Brigade, have significantly increased in number in the Lyman area since the beginning of spring.
A lot of drones have appeared. Their drones fly around looking for where the bunker is, where the trench is, so they can target them.
Drones are a big problem, right?
Very much so. It's very difficult to get in and out.
But they drive almost right up to enemy positions. The mortar team of the Onuka Adolfivna battalion, ready to provide fire support with their 120mm mortars, to their infantry comrades holding the lines right at the 0 point, on the western bank of the Zerebets whenever needed.
6003, correct?
Ready.
Mine.
There, that river goes under the hills.
There, this river goes under the hills. And they have already moved onto those hills. Further on. Some places they passed, and some they didn't. They tried here, but we held them back. So they went from another section and passed through.
A pack of occupiers tries to push forward on the section from Rekivka to Yampilivka every day, openly shares Yuk, the commander of the 66th Mechanized Battalion. It is his soldiers, the commander assures, that Adolfivna protects.
That's actually Adolfovna. She is the guardian of our battalion. I don't know who this woman is, to be honest with you. We were heavily shelled by the enemy, and as they say, she protected us. Now she travels with us.
No tanks, no armored personnel carriers, says the commander. The Muscovites cannot manage to cross to the western bank. Not least thanks to the efforts of Adolfivna's mortar operator grandchildren, who destroy enemy crossings.
Ready.
Mine!
Not across the river, only through, well, only over the sunken bridge. Crossings like these are often thrown. Well, it's just a very effective thing. Well, but we also try to do this.
Meanwhile, the occupiers are advancing with infantry, a very large number of infantry.
For every one of our servicemen, there are 12 enemy servicemen and infantrymen. They simply destroy with FPV drones, driving him underground, and then only a group goes, already the 25th or 30th wave of enemy assault actions. They come with a TM mine, detonating, in fact, the dugout.
Under such circumstances, the mortar fire of Adolfovna's grandchildren on the timely detected groups of Muscovite assault troops greatly helps Ukrainian infantrymen on the front line to hold back the onslaught of the occupiers.
That's it. Aim one, fire. If an adjustment is needed, there it is. All set, fire. Mine!
It's practically all about the infantry. They start to advance and we just hold them back.
Narrator. From the front line on the Lyman sector, Alexander Motorny, Alexander Sheehan, and Serhiy Shportilo. TSN 1+1. Marathon United News.
Yulia Yarmolenko, a new decree directly from the Russian General Staff. Putin's soldiers are switching to motorcycles. Now they ride on two wheels across minefields. However, the problem is our FPV drones catch up with them and give them a good roasting. The entire motorcycle gang scatters. It was a fiery welcome salute from the armed forces of Ukraine. Who or what will the occupiers try to ride next? We'll tell you all about it in just a moment.
We are here with you at the training ground, where the motorcycle group of the Volunteer Brigade from Panyol will be practicing specific tasks. The group was formed literally 2 weeks ago, based on the assault unit.
Anatoly Novikov. Russia is preparing a new offensive tactic for the spring-summer of this year. This is reported by analysts from the American Institute for the Study of War. According to their information, the occupiers are now replacing armored vehicles with motorcycles.
Alexander Motuzyanik and these, let's say, motorcycle units have already appeared to intensify the combat engagement. Naturally, today, tactical methods are being developed on our side as well to counteract this. It's clear that the target is small, and it's actually very difficult to hit it with a drone. That's obvious.
Anatoly Novikov, as experts note, the Kremlin is switching to motorcycle groups for several reasons. The main reason is, of course, the significant increase in the number of FPV drones of the armed forces of Ukraine. The Russians themselves do not hide the fact that Ukrainian UAV operators have become so skilled at destroying their counterparts that a target in the size of even a passenger car is no longer a problem for them. Therefore, Russia is now looking for the smallest and fastest means of transportation possible.
Dmitro Butsko, more maneuverable than a car. And also, even if you take these FPV drones, well, I don't think they would use FPV drones just for, say, a motorcycle.
Anatoly Novikov. Moreover, the tactic of advancing on motorcycles seems to be initiated directly from the Russian General Staff, as satellite images regularly capture training of future suicide attackers on two-wheeled vehicles at the training grounds. In turn, armored vehicles are practically not used in the exercises.
Rain. If operators see an armored personnel carrier, it's clear it's a crew. It's about a dozen orcs. It's a combat vehicle. Destroying one such combat vehicle immediately multiplies the result by 10. A motorcyclist, a lone motorcyclist, or a lone running orc, yes, it's a target, but you need to scale it 10 times to destroy each one individually. So the Russian suicide troops are trying to use all possible light means of transportation to increase their mobility.
Anatoly Novikov. However, analysts note that in this way the Russian command is primarily preserving equipment, not people. Since the beginning of the full-scale war, Russia has already lost over 10,500 tanks alone. So the remnants of the surviving armored vehicles are now being guarded like the apple of their eye.
Rain. In 70 to 80% of cases, the use of heavy armored vehicles, especially tanks, involves tasks that are not typical for tanks. This is essentially performing artillery operations from concealed positions, not tank battles.
Anatoly Novikov. Meanwhile, no one intends to preserve the assault troops. Got on a two-wheeler, and off you go. The occupiers, on the other hand, try to protect themselves, habitually using old tactics like grills on armor.
Announcer on a motorcycle. This is the kind of protection. They made a mesh Is this how you'll protect against FPV?
Yes,
And are you going to use it for combat missions or evacuation?
for combat missions.
For combat missions. On such a beauty, it needs to be painted green.
Anatoly Novikov, however, the idea of protecting with a mesh over the motorcycle from a strike drone is absurd, as the debris will still fly towards the driver. Therefore, more experienced motorcycle assault troops say, if you hear a Ukrainian drone, only your reaction can save you.
Kirilo, at the very last moment, yes, when you already feel it at the back of your head, you need to move left or right. This can save your life.
Anatoly Novikov. It is worth mentioning that there are motorcycle units in the Ukrainian army as well. However, they are used in a completely different way. Instead of senseless frontal assaults, our military bikers operate under air cover and ride not so much for attacks, but for delivering ammunition and supplies, as well as for evacuating the wounded.
Alexander Motusyanik. We also adopt some elements of enemy tactics, among other things. We also have units that have mounted these metal steeds and will also be harassing the forward positions of the Russian troops. Therefore, we take the best, use the best, including what the enemy has, and prepare countermeasures.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
The Kramatorsk section of the front is one of the circles of hell for the occupiers. The armed forces of Ukraine greet the enemy with mortar salvos, strikes directly on enemy positions. The Russian soldiers certainly did not expect such a setup from their commanders. They are sent directly into the line of fire. After this, the Russian cowards sharpen their skis and prepare to flee as fast as they can. These shots of the occupiers' disgraceful whining right on the front line have already flooded the internet. Take a look at them yourself.
It's cool when you shoot and everything is burning there. Well, it's blazing there, I like it.
People are bustling around and it's burning. And I'm bursting with laughter.
Yes, jokingly, the mortar men of the 5th Separate Assault Kiev Brigade, who are defending the approaches to Kramatorsk, talk about their work.
The greenery has turned green. The enemy is advancing, pushing, trying, entering, in small groups of 1 or 2 people. Well, but our guys are working and we are working. Our drones, well, they detect them, and accordingly, we work on them.
The situation is like in war. I don't know. They come at us, we destroy them. They also show some teeth to force some kind of bad peace, to win something, at least something, somewhere. They practically enter, but it's one-sided.
In some places, the occupiers are bringing in armor. Recently, enemy forces launched a massive offensive. The result of their assault is visible on the screen. The remnants of Russian equipment litter the Ukrainian land, but the Russians retaliate and destroy our cities from a distance with shelling.
They are constantly, especially now, I say they have started shelling Kostiantynivka heavily with everything, including rockets and who knows what else, just relentlessly. And also in Kramatorsk and in Drushkivka, everywhere.
The task of the Ukrainian mortar teams is to protect the infantry, and the mortar teams themselves are covered by aerial reconnaissance.
I like it when they tell us there's a hit, everything's clear, guys, let's secure the result. Let's send a couple more there.
We're hitting them. Well, sometimes they praise us, sometimes a little less.
Besides the ability to press quickly, these guys need physical strength to carry parts of the mortar. Just one base plate weighs 90 kilograms.
I've already learned what muscle soreness is. Running, throwing, aiming. They wanted to land a Mavic on me. They scared me in the mortar pit. So I ran around a bit there, hid. Yes, there were shellings, there were, but it's all bearable.
Mortar crews always have work to do. They have planned targets they work on. These are enemy fortifications and positions. And when they know they're working against the infantry of the occupiers who are going on the offensive, they give it their all.
Then we don't spare them. Neither mines nor anything else.
The second mine is light, well, 3 to 3.5, up to 3.5 kilograms, up to 4. Well, it's quick, they're in a box. Well, if working normally, you can throw out these, 10 pieces in 2 minutes.
10 pieces in 2 minutes?
Yes, you can do that, when the work is intense.
When the mortar operators receive information from scouts about the location of enemy positions, They calculate from where they can strike them. They work as quickly as possible.
There were times when we just ran out of the dugout, and immediately the mortar started working on us in response. Because they knew where, they know where this position is, where this. And well, thank God everyone managed, the guys managed to jump into the dugout. We managed to jump into the vehicle and quickly drive away.
They say despite the fatigue, they will continue to strike the enemy because they know our infantrymen need help.
The whistle of gunpowder, the joy from the work it gives. And you understand that you are doing all this for a reason.
From Donetsk region, Marina Smolova, Alexander Petrovsky, Ukraine, Marathon United News.
The Pokrovsk Mortar direction groans. Everywhere there is rumble, roar, and flames. The occupiers are crumbling. Our forces are working excellently. Rocket packages are a gift to the enemy from the armed forces of Ukraine. In response, the occupiers launch drones. They fall halfway. How do our defenders manage to maintain the pace and turn up the heat on the hottest section of the front? We will tell you about this in our report right now. You asked where we are shooting? It turns out to be a cannon, a Kamaz, and ammunition. Wow.
They can, if needed, cover an area of 8 to 9 hectares abundantly with a whole package. But currently, on the Pokrovsko-Mirnohrad section of the front, the crews of the BM-21 of the 38th Marine Brigade are firing, says Silver. More like snipers, with a few rockets per target.
The thing that we cannot stop right now is the enemy's artillery. These are cannons, mortars, in that sense, some self-propelled artillery.
Raider. Shock.
You again, Russia.
You again, Russia.
The panorama looks with one eye following the sky.
Actually, he is a gunner in the crew of the Marines Grad. And recently, on his way to work and back, Borsuk travels exclusively with a package of rockets in his hands, firmly holding a carbine.
I ride on the package all the time, and at the same time watch the drones.
Then what? Did they hit or just scare?
Just scared.
That carbine is a decent means of protection, say the Marines, but it's only effective at minimal range. And there are plenty of enemy drones flying over Pokrovsky these days. They fly constantly. Now there are more, and now more FPV they have started reaching here. Previously they didn't reach, but now they do, and they keep reaching further.
The impact from them is even greater.
For reliable protection of both oneself and combat vehicles, a powerful electronic warfare station is very much needed. Joining and helping the warriors to raise funds for its purchase is, of course, a voluntary matter. But the Marines protect each of us, and they do so very effectively.
You see the target, the cannon's exit, next to it, a Kamaz unloading ammunition. So this is what... No, well, it would be great, of course, if it were a direct hit.
From the Pokrovsky-Mirnohrad section of the front in Donetsk region, Alexander Motorny, Alexander Shian, and Serhiy Shportilo, Autosomastor, TSN, 1+1, Marathon United News.
In Crimea, there is real chaos. The peninsula is shaking from powerful strikes. Explosions are occurring one after another. Partisans are working with precision. They see the target, stop at nothing, and leave behind only smoke and panic. The Russians don't like it. They're whining. Could it be that they sense their imminent end? Hear this first.
These convoys transport enemy tanks, weapons, ammunition, and armored vehicles. In 11 years of occupation, they have not withstood, thanks to Ukrainian sabotage groups. One after another, explosions occur just before the arrival of ammunition near Jankoy and Sevastopol. All of this is documented by the partisan movement Atesh.
We have dealt another blow to the enemy's logistics, but we are not disclosing the details of the operation yet for the safety of our agents. Restoring movement will take time, which means Russian troops will once again face a shortage of ammunition on the front line. The partisan movement Atesh.
There are dozens of partisan movements on the occupied peninsula. Participants of one of them, called Combat Seagulls, say that people from various professions join them.
They go to universities or work in shops, in banks. We cannot be exposed because we do not stand out in any special way among all the country's residents.
Except for our Ukrainian stance and actions. They organize sabotage on railways, arson of Russian military equipment and soldiers' vehicles, and also
we find and systematize information about public figures of the occupation regime. For us, it is critically important to track, expose, and relay to Ukraine the locations of potential military targets, the positioning of Russian ships, and infrastructure objects.
there is an increasing Ukrainian presence in Simferopol, Yalta, Yevpatoria, Sevastopol, and Jankoy. Fearless activists are placing yellow and blue ribbons on administrative buildings, tying them on fences, and the Ukrainian flag is flying in the mountains and being launched into the sky. This is very meticulous work, say the participants of another movement, the Yellow Ribbon. In it, there are over 10,000 people on the temporarily occupied territories, and the number of those willing to resist the Kremlin regime is growing.
The anonymity of each activist is a priority. We work not only in the physical space, but also online. We teach people how to do this safely, how to verify information, how to secure their devices, as well as the basic aspects of cyber hygiene.
And the fact that the Yellow Ribbon broke the combat seagulls, these partisan movements emerged at the beginning of the full-scale war, and they destroy the enemy from within. The occupiers hunt them down, just like everything Ukrainian.
Listening to Ukrainian songs. This is precisely considered as domestic extremism or discrediting the armed forces of the Russian Federation. There are already more than 1,200 administrative cases against such people. And we already have cases of criminal prosecution for so-called state treason.
The Russians also monitor the social networks of Crimeans.
The latest case was, for example, about a man who reposted an interview with the president of Ukraine during his trip to America. The occupiers tracked this, fined him, and brought him to administrative responsibility.
However, the resistance is only growing both in numbers and active actions, because each participant in the partisan movements knows and does not let the occupiers forget that Crimea is Ukraine. Elvina Saidbulaeva, Roman Grebelnikov, We Are Ukraine, Marathon, Unified News.
Darina Hutsakalo, everything is on fire. The Russians are running around and fussing. This is how our drone operators describe the results of the secret drone's work. It has undergone changes and now has returned to the front to continue to haunt the enemy. The occupiers fear this bird more than Russian generals. Heartstoppers. What is special about the Argus drone and what extremely complex tasks is it capable of performing? More on this in just a moment. Darina Hutsakalo, this will be the first flight of Argus.
Serhiy Mokhalov, everything here is assembled very easily. Just a couple of manipulations here and it's assembled. The pre-flight preparation also goes very quickly. You set it up, adjust the antenna correctly, check the wind parameters, and off you go.
Darina Hutsakalo. The modernized UAV has 4 engines that allow the drone to take off, and a maneuvering engine that activates Choki in the air.
Konstantin Yelchenko, this aircraft has already been in combat.
Andriy Terentiev. This one, no, it was in the previous modification. And they have already been in combat, performing quite well. We need to jam the heavy one.
Darina Hutsakalo. The military constantly communicates with the drone manufacturers and provides them with feedback for improvements, which they then modify.
Serhiy Mokhalov, so that during combat situations when we, let's say, expose ourselves to enemy strikes, we don't encounter any misunderstandings with the aircraft and everything goes smoothly.
Darina Hutsakalo. Before the drone takes to the sky, it needs to be balanced and checked to ensure everything is working.
Konstantin Yelchenko, but right now there's quite a strong wind. Does it interfere a lot?
Yevhen Sitnichenko. No, the wind is normal now, just what we need. There were times when we flew for the first time, there were times with winds of 18, we barely made it back.
Konstantin Yelchenko. How do you like this aircraft?
Serhiy Mokhalov. We've been working with it for over 2 years. We've flown into places where no one else could. Losses with it, as with this type of equipment, exist but are minimal. Therefore, it's a very productive, excellent aircraft.
Darina Hutsakalo. After completing its missions, the bird always returns home.
Konstantin Yelchenko-like job?
Serhiy Mokhalov. Yes, of course, because it might not be as dangerous as in the infantry, right? We are still positioned at a distance. But when you find a target And when you adjust, when it all then explodes, our enemies run around scurry, and that's enjoyable. It's like a movie, but for real.
Konstantin Yelchenko. So, let's summarize. The wing has been checked, ready for combat operation. So, join the 429th Separate Drone Systems Regiment Achilles. Stay in touch.
Darina Hatsakalo, that's all from me for now. I was with you, Darina Hatsakalo. More hellish news from the front in our next release. In the meantime, don't forget to subscribe and like. See you.